Hello, my name's David Seaman, and this is the Three Lions Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions Podcast. My name is Ross Osborne. This is your independent England football supporters podcast. How are you? I hope you're good. Interesting episode coming up here for you. I think you're going to enjoy it. But just quickly referring back to the previous one, that was where I took a look at the U17 World Cup. It's currently taking place over in Qatar. Now, our young Lions, well, they didn't get off to the best of starts. Defeated 3-0 by Venezuela in their opening group game. We had so many opportunities, but we just couldn't make them count. And then the South Americans, 2 goals in quick succession before half-time, well, knocked the stuffing out of us, helped their cause no end. They went on to win 3-0. And on the same day, Egypt beat Haiti 4-1. Of course, those 2 teams are in our group. Now, with the amount of teams and games within this tournament, there will be, I think it's 6 or 8 of the best third-place teams. They can still qualify for the knockouts. So all's not lost. So Haiti were up next. Played that game on Friday. We got back on track with an 8-1 win. Chizoram Eswanata from Chelsea bagging a hat-trick. There was also a goal for Regan Heskey, who scored from the spot. Yes, Heskey. His father, the one and only Emil. Helpfully for England's cause, firstly, were those 8 goals, but also Venezuela and Egypt, well, they could only play out a draw. And it currently leaves us in third place on 3 points, and we are behind those 2, Venezuela and Egypt, who are both joint on 4. So a win over Egypt on the 10th of November, that's Monday, would put us into the top 2 and into the round of 32. So best of luck to them. You can see that game, I think it's on ITV4. I'm not 100% sure of the time of it. But yeah, England against Egypt in the Under-17 World Cup. Best of luck to them. Now, on to this episode. Every so often, I read a book. Actually, this year I've tried to read a book a month. I think, what are we now, November? I think I've read 8 books, which is good for me, I have to say. They haven't all been football books. There has been a novel thrown in there as well. But maybe next year I'll get to 12, 1 a month. But this year, one of the books I read was Joey D'Urso's More Than a Shirt. And I had a chat with him the other day. And I'd like to play that for you now. Now it's my pleasure to welcome to the show Joey D'Urso, senior data journalist at the Times and the Sunday Times, but more importantly, author of the book More Than a Shirt. Joey.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, more than welcome to come along. You well?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Looking forward to this one. I've done lots of talks about all sorts of shirts around this book, but not really England. And I'm a big England fan. I was there in Marseille in 2016, Eric Dyer's free kick against Russia. Didn't get in any aggro.
You weren't at that end, were you?
No, I wasn't actually. And I sort of didn't really know what was going on. And I was with my mate and we bumped into someone he knew outside. And he was like, have you heard about all these crazy Russians? And I was sort of like, no. We sort of ran into a restaurant where we kind of just stayed for hours and yeah, it all blew over. I went to a couple of the Euros games in Wembley in 2021. So yeah, I love watching England. Big part of my life.
Good stuff. Well, we'll touch on England in a bit, but let's just sort of get the elephant out the room. D'Urso, of no relation?
Well, no relation. I got a message from his nephew the other day.
Oh, right.
Andy D'Urso, the famous referee. No relation, however, they're all from the small part of southern Italy. So he is one village where everyone's called Durso, including my granddad and including probably Andy. So I think I probably am related, but I've never met him. I couldn't tell you of like a tangible link.
Yeah, but for those that maybe don't know, obviously Andy Durso was a referee. Was he a early sort of mid 2000s? I think, wasn't he?
Yeah. From Billericay. Remember they used to put the name of the place in the. And there's a famous one. I think him being surrounded by like Roy Keane and all the Man United players being really aggressive.
Yeah, I think he gave a penalty to. I couldn't tell you who he gave a penalty.
Middlesbrough.
Oh, was it?
And Man United hadn't conceded a penalty for like years, and so they all just thought this was completely outrageous.
Yeah. Well, so there's no definite link, but it's a could be.
I think it probably is because all the Dursos come from one small place. But don't know him, never met him. He's not my dad or my uncle or anything. I can tell you that.
Fair enough. Well, we got that out of the way. Well, the main thing, the book. Now, I picked this up during the summer. It was my holiday read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got it here with me as the proof.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
It's I learnt a lot. I have to say, I learnt a lot, and I like my shirts. And I've always said on this podcast, I don't like to get too political, but there's really no getting away from it, is there?
Yeah, and I totally understand that, and I also don't want to be sort of lecturing people or telling people what to think, and I don't think people should go and watch a football match and feel pressured to sort of think about politics. But I think it's hard to avoid, and you think about all the Middle Eastern states buying at clubs, and you think about the Emirates and the Etihad. You just turn on the Premier League one weekend, and there's all sorts of politics there. The World Cup in the US next year, there's a lot of American domestic politics there with Donald Trump.
Very much.
8 years later, there'll be the Saudi Arabian World Cup. So, it's pretty hard to completely avoid it these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, as I say, we'll touch on England shirts soon, but there is quite a lot to digest with the book. Just briefly, it's 11 chapters and like two shirts per chapter. So there's 22 shirts you've got through there. Just how did it all come about? And what was your journey for it?
Well, my journey was all around the world, basically. I went to 5 continents. I went to India, Qatar, America, Colombia, all over Europe. I started off reporting for The Athletic, which is where I was before this job at the Times. I wrote a lot about gambling sponsors, cryptocurrency sponsors, looking at some of the slightly murky companies sponsoring Premier League clubs. And that sort of set me off on this journey, is becoming more and more fascinated by sponsors, companies on the front of football shirts. But it's not just about sponsors. I mean, I'm sure as we'll come along to in England, like particularly national shirts can really represent things. The French national shirt I talk about on the story of migration in France. The Brazil yellow shirt has become really political in recent years. The right, particularly in Brazil, have really adopted it. And some of the left have kind of pushed back against that and tried to adopt it themselves. So football shirts can often just be a window into these much bigger questions of money, of politics, of power.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't want to sort of say if you've got many children, which one is your favourite? But when you pick the book up and look at it, and what one comes to mind as like your favourite journey or something?
I think I really loved Colombia just because it's somewhere I'd never been before. Such an interesting place. It's kind of a great place to be. I mean, 30 years ago, it was torn apart by violence, cartels, drug gangs, and was a horrendous place. And now it's great. So it's a really fun place to go and visit. But the story there was so interesting about how the drug cartels had owned football clubs, used them to sort of fight their wars against each other. And the shirt I found was one that had a dead gangster's face on the back. It was a tribute to a fallen cartel leader. And it was also some of them are stories that people might have heard before. Like I tried to mix ones that I don't want them to all be completely obscure. I've got Barcelona and Real Madrid and the French national team, but there are a few in there that I really enjoyed doing, maybe even more that were, I didn't know about before I started doing this. And I'd like plenty of people who told me who, know a bit about Colombian football or know a bit about whatever didn't know about.
And the Colombian shirt, was that the one where you saw so many people wearing a shirt and then all of a sudden there was someone in the crowd wearing it? Because you say it's this distinctive little head motif on the back of the collar, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like a silhouette of a man's face. But this was a sort of 2011 kit and I went in 2024. So I thought, am I going to see it or not? Because it's quite a long time ago. And it was Envigado FC in the sort of suburbs of Medellin in Colombia. And right at the end of the game, I saw a man wearing it. And that made that very long journey worth it.
Did you what? Do you approach him and talk about it? Or?
No, 'cause he looked a bit scary, and I was like, also I was like, it's a bit of a sketchy topic, and I was happy to have seen it. Really,
Find it, yeah.
yeah.
Well, it is a great book, and we'll come to find out where we can pick it up. There's a couple of, or I think there's an England reference in it with regards to Mary Earps, who's been in the news recently.
I've added a couple of new sentences into the paperback actually just the week to cover. I mean, it's quite hard because you don't know what things are going to be like in 6 months' time. But it doesn't look. It's not great, is it?
No, it hasn't come across particularly well. But yeah, there's a piece on that. But England, I've sort of said before, I've said on this podcast that surely in time, international shirts will have a sponsor of some sort, some way, shape or form, be it on the front, be it on the sleeve, because we've seen it in international rugby, international cricket. Can it happen in international football? Can we see England with something underneath the crest?
Well, the reason that there isn't is because FIFA and UEFA don't want it because it would compete with their sponsors. So for the World Cup next year, FIFA has all sorts of sponsors that are paying huge amounts of money to cover the stadiums, to cover, the walls that the players stand in front of when they're being interviewed. And they don't want it to compete with their sponsors, if that makes sense. So they don't really have an incentive to allow it. It's also kind of more complicated in international football because who are you advertising to, right? You're advertising to kind of the entire world, which is much messier. Maybe your kind of return on advertising is a lot lower. If you're advertising to people who watch the English Championship, there's quite a defined demographic there, quite a limit. Whereas if it's like the entire world, it's like, are you just throwing money, advertising money into there? So I think it's harder to target. But yeah, I think that's the main reason that FIFA and UEFA don't want competition with their own sponsors.
So you don't foresee it happening ever?
I don't see it on the agenda. I think particularly as FIFA and UEFA become more and more corporate and commercial, probably not. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, off the top of my head, the only one I can really sort of think of, and I don't think it was probably used in a game, but Ireland were sponsored by, say sponsored Opal, and I think
but not in tournaments. I think not in they weren't allowed that in the tournaments.
But would they have worn it in a match, like friendly?
Maybe in a friendly, but it's UEFA and FIFA that dictate what you're allowed to wear in qualifiers or whatever else. And I'm pretty sure sponsors are banned.
Yeah.
They had Opal, they had 3. Maybe they still have 3. Yeah, Ireland is an interesting one.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
Aircom.
Yes.
That was 2002, that great team. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, we'll see. But, you say England. You went to France in 2016. What was your first England game? Do you remember?
I do remember. So I'm a big Aston Villa fan. I grew up in Birmingham, and it was Sven's first game. England 3, Spain 0.
Yes, remember that one.
And I believe there are some very funny people like Michael Ricketts. I think Gavin McCann, I believe, played, who's a Villa midfielder, got their one and only cap. And that was I think kind of Beckham shaved head era. I remember it very well. I was 10 years old. Pretty sure that was my first England match. I went to a couple of qualifiers and stuff. I think a 5-0 against Kazakhstan, or maybe a 5-1. I remember going to that in about 2007. And since living in London, I go to the odd qualifier at Wembley. I don't know how much I enjoy them, to be honest, but I've been to a few. I think it's partly a reflection on England being so good, to be honest. Like when I was a kid, I felt like such a big event, and we had this neighbour that I'd always watch. So I was born in 92, so 98 World Cup was a real kind of foundational memory for me. I don't remember 96, unfortunately. But the qualifier was filled with so much jeopardy because England weren't that good, and there were smaller tournaments, right? 16 in the Euros. So, but now it's hard to imagine anytime soon there being any real jeopardy about England qualifying for a World Cup or Euros, particularly with expanded tournaments.
Yeah.
I find it harder to engage in the qualifiers, but I respect people who do and go away and everything else.
No, I get where you're coming from, and as a fan that goes home and away, it can be hard work. There's no denying.
I'm sure the trips are worth it. You get to see some fun places.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, of course, England. The win we'll know about was 66. a story about why we wore red and Germany wore white, because it's people see, England in red is famous for that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's just because they were like the Germans only had a white kit, right? And it was just like, oh, we'll do you a favour, pretty much. I don't think it's any more complicated than that.
So really,
Yeah.
So we had an away kit, home and away kit, but they didn't.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's why. But obviously, it's the most famous moment in English football history, and it's in red rather than white, which is very strange. It's just, the Germans said, "Oh, our kit's white." That's the thing. When you look back on the history of some of these things, it's so kind of ad hoc. Like now, there'll be a 20-page document that dictates what you can have in your sleeves or not. Whereas then it was just like, I did a chapter on Celtic and Rangers, and Celtic obviously wear the green and white because of the Irish connection and all that. But it's kind of why do Rangers wear blue? They have the orange, which is obviously the Protestant colour for the away third kit. But no one knows why Rangers wear blue. And the answer is almost certainly because someone went to a sports shop in Glasgow one day in the 1870s, and that was on offer or something. So the sort of further you go back into history, the more these kind of idiosyncrasies and stories often don't have a sort of clear reason.
Actually, you mentioned Celtic Rangers. There was a time where, when you talk about sponsors, they both seem to have the same sponsors. And I think there was Carlin is one, and there was
NTL.
There was another one. Was there something Smith, or back in like the 80s? I think.
I don't know. It's a bit before my time. But yeah, but that was often the thing, because if you don't want half of Glasgow to boycott your product, right? I mean, Now they don't seem to do that, go in for that so much. But that was a big, for a long time.
Yeah, I seem to remember that growing up. 1990 for England.
So I think, as I said, I was born in 92, but I'm sort of coming of football age and being awareness through this era. I think it's no surprise that the three kind of foundational songs of English foot, you've got your World in Motion, your Three Lions, and your Vindaloo is all 90s. I think, which I've spoken to kind of older relatives about, the dark days of the 80s and hooliganism. And I think following England or following teams around the country, there was a lot of violence. Stadiums were certainly more unsavoury places now. And then you had 96 hosted in England, and I think it was this sort of national event. And one thing that people forget is actually attendances were really quite bad at the beginning of that tournament.
Yeah.
And the full for the England games, but remarkably, like the semi-final, Czech Republic, was it against France? It was like Old Trafford was about 3/4 full. So I think that was a really big moment. And then in 98, it sort of became this kind of national thing once more after some really, and I think Italia 90 is remembered as this brilliant thing, but like the football was pretty awful, right?
Oh, the tournament was awful.
Yeah.
And we all look at it through like rose tinted glasses, and it was my first World Cup. And I look back at it and I see the shadow of the San Siro and those sort of things, the colour and Cameroon. But when you look back on the tournament, England scraped their way through. It was nothing special.
Yeah, and it was the back pass rule was introduced after Italia 90, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. The Premier League or the First Division sort of introduced it because they realised that football needed to advance, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that was a big moment. But I think that England shirt. I think also a thing that I often come back to is that football is just way more popular than it used to be. Across all in English and British society. And I think a big part of that story is football started as a working class game in the factories and whatever else. And, for 100 years, it was primarily, I'm sure like 1966 was a big national moment, but it's only really in the past 20 years that football has become much more, the middle classes, the wealthier people, whatever else, which means it's basically the whole country now, right? It used to be kind of half the country and the other half wasn't that bothered and watched cricket or rugby or whatever. And now it's kind of almost everyone is interested. And, you don't have to go back far to see Premier League attendances way lower than they were now, like early 2000s.
Yeah.
So I think football across the board is more popular, which means the English national team is more popular. And these tournaments are just, World Cups have always been huge, huge events. But I just think the importance of football in public life is higher than it has ever been since maybe the 1940s, just after the Second World War.
Over-commercialised now?
Yes, I do agree with that a lot, and I write about that kind of thing a lot in my book. I think it's like, it's over commercialized because there is so much demand there and because people are so interested in it. I also think the sort of top of the game going into the stratosphere and, the very top clubs in the Premier League and how much tickets cost and all that, none of which I particularly like. I don't think it is killing the kind of grassroots of the game. I think it can almost boost it. Like, actually, non-league attendances have been doing really, really well since COVID.
Yeah.
And I think a large part of that is that because people feel quite alienated from the top of the Premier League. So I think viewing football in the round as something much bigger than just what's going on in the Premier League, I think it is really thriving. And I think, whatever your politics, I don't think many people would say the UK is thriving as a country at the moment. But when it comes to football, I really think it is. And I think it's the best place in the world for football and in many, many ways. And I don't just mean that as a kind of historic thing, like we invented it. I mean, right now, I think it's the most exciting, most vibrant football place in the world. I mean, no other country has the attendances that we do, possibly Germany, but that would be the only potential rival.
And with going back to England, do you think Gareth Southgate had a major factor in helping that along?
Yeah, and a real seminal memory for me was the 2018 World Cup. I didn't go there. I watched it sort of while living in London, and it was just such a happy, fun time, right? And I think supporting England really hadn't been for a long time. It had been a real slog, often really high expectations with really glamorous players, and then useless when it came to the major tournament. So I think, and Gareth Southgate became this sort of semi-political figure, right? I mean, I don't think it doesn't need to get into sort of left and right or anything like that, but just sort of, quite a unifying figure and just making everything feel a bit more relaxed. And obviously, he did fail at the final hurdle, and maybe that you can make the argument he overstayed his welcome. But I think history is going to look pretty kindly on Gareth Southgate and what the England shirt means kind of beyond the pitch. I think he's done a lot of good there.
It came at a time when there was an England shirt with a flag on the back of that collar, wasn't there?
What, the rainbow one?
Yeah, the rainbow flag.
Yeah, which caused a lot of consternation. I mean, so he was kind of very pro that, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to think of. I mean, but I suppose England more recently there was also the black shirt, the sort of anti-racism shirt, which was all black, which England never worn before, which I've seen people wearing kind of out and about, and that the idea that the shirt can be more kind of directly leaning into these sort of cultural topics that historically people will sort of shy away from. And I suppose part of that was like taking the knee, and Southgate was a big kind of part of that, and lots of the players. I mean, I think it's just, I write about this in relation to the French shirt, that football teams reflect migration patterns in a country. I mean, you look at the England team now, and you have multiple players, don't even have to name them, but Saka, Bellingham, who are the children of immigrants from British colonies in Africa and the Caribbean. And so I think that does kind of change the meaning of what it is to be English to people who just watch football, and to the more kind of unsavoury, overtly racist people. It makes that much harder to sustain, I think, supporting your country when several of those players are not white. So I think that is quite a profound thing, really, for a country's sense of identity and what it means to be English, and that is, no longer particularly tied to race when some of these heroes of the national team aren't white.
Yeah, thoroughly agree. Do you have a favourite England shirt? What one springs to mind?
Definitely the 98 one.
Okay.
With the little, it wasn't a particularly great team or tournament, with the little flag on the collar.
Yes.
I don't really mean collar, on the sort of...
the lapel, wasn't it?
Lapel. Yeah. Oh, just because it's such a visceral memory for me, that tournament. I think everyone's first World Cup is so special. And I sometimes see people walking around wearing it, and it's like 200 quid. You can get a fake one which looks a bit rubbish and doesn't have the Umbro on or whatever. And maybe one day I'll treat myself, but I'd be scared of putting it in the wash. Yeah, that's my favourite. I actually really like the 2020 Euro 2021 with the round collar. I think also just, it was a great tournament. Obviously losing the final was pretty devastating, but I just think it's a nice design.
Yeah. I must admit, the 98 one just had never really done it for me. I can picture it now. It's got the central badge. It's got those red and black sort of stripes up the sides, I think. And it is that little St George's cross on the lapel, and
the very sort of blockish numbers and letters on the back, really big and kind of And what about you?
Yeah, I always had a thing for the 2002 shirt with just the
What's that?
one.
The nosebleed.
Is that what you call it? I hadn't really thought of it like that.
That's Beckham's penalty against Argentina.
Yes, yeah. Also, Beckham's free kick against Greece.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you say, your first World Cup and one, as I said, is 1990. That shirt holds fond memories, and you'll often see people wearing that.
Yeah, I've got the sort of knockoff version. You can buy the Sports Direct version that doesn't have the. You can always tell whether it's real or not because it will have Umbro or Nike or whatever on it. If it doesn't, that means it's the 20 quid Sports Direct job. But yeah, that's the one that I've got.
Yeah, the shirt aficionados will know you can spot them a mile off. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple of stories going back to the book. There's one that I read with sort of great interest, and you mentioned about sort of migration and sort of people coming across here. There's a team that isn't a million miles away from me. It's literally 10 minutes up the road. Changing Lives FC. They're based in Harlow in Essex. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so they're a team made up of refugees and asylum seekers, and they, I met them, I met their coach, and they sort of, use football as this sort of bonding thing, I guess. And they're all from different countries, and they found it really helpful coming to the UK to have playing football as a social thing, as a way to keep fit, and it's quite a nice story, really.
Yeah, it was. Although they still come under a lot of.
They've had all kind of racism and whatever else. It's not great, but
But it shows the power of football, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and I think that these people come from all four corners of the world, and that's one thing that they might have in common. And really, something that I kept coming back to during the book was that you can go to some really quite obscure places, really far away, and you'll always find football there. You'll see football shirts, you'll see football pitches, and that might seem like a statement of the obvious, but I actually don't think that would have been true like 20 years ago. And places like India, places like the US, where football has always been really marginal, I think that's changing really quickly because of high-speed internet, because of more people having mobile phones. So I think football is like way bigger than it was 20 years ago everywhere.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. So go on, tell us where can we pick up a copy of the book?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, anywhere, like Waterstones, hopefully. But Amazon, all the people often ask me, where would you prefer I buy it from? Like, buy it from anywhere. I'm happy. You can get it on audiobook as well. I read that out. Ebook, so you don't have to buy the hardback, and the paperback will be out next year. But yeah, buy it in hardback. Get it as a Christmas present for someone.
How long does it take to read an audiobook, or to do that?
Oh, it's tiring. I think it's about 13 hours. But you can't really get down more than about 4 in a day because, well, for a start, 4 isn't 4 because you end up, and every time you stumble, you sort of go back and repeat it. So 4 might take 6, but then you need long breaks. And after that long, you just keep making mistakes. You just get tired and keep stumbling. So I remember I was in there maybe like 10 till 4 and sort of being like, I can do longer hours than this, but you can't because it's really tiring for your brain and you keep stumbling. So yeah, so it took about 3 days, 3 and a bit days.
Oh, fair enough.
It was a fun experience.
Yeah, reading your own book aloud.
I know. There were a few times that I sort of slightly edited it, like reworded a sentence a little bit because I sort of thought there are some things that look fine on the page, and then when you're saying it out loud, it's a bit.
Yeah. So, and you said you changed the Mary Earps chapter slightly.
I haven't changed yet.
Well, adapted.
Well, I mean, she's kind of embarrassing herself at the moment, really. I mean, there's clearly some stuff going on behind the scenes, but it's not a good look. Just keep it behind closed doors, Mary. I mean, I don't know who's advising her.
Yeah. So, I mean, where do you go from here? Is there? Do you follow the book up? What's your plans?
Yeah, I'd like to do another one. I've had some conversations about it. I'm trying to figure out exactly the right approach. I don't want to just do like more than a shirt too.
Right.
I'd like to do something slightly different. But I love the idea of it's hopefully a fit. There's so many books I've written about football, but the combination of traveling and sort of delving deep into the politics of it all, I hope is fairly unique. So yeah, I'd love doing it. I'd like to do more.
Yeah, well, I'd like to read more.
Great,
are you on the socials? Do you want to push any of those?
Yeah, I've kind of given up on X or Twitter recently. I'm trying to do more Instagram. I don't have many followers, so if anyone listens to this and wants to follow me, I'll be very grateful. Yeah.
Where can we find you? Just Joey Durso?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Fair enough. Joey, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciated. As I say, really enjoyed the book. I think it's an ideal Christmas present for someone in the family. Can't recommend
your
it.
words, not mine. Yeah.
Well, there's a few other people who have given you some high praise. Martin O'Neill, Miguel Delaney.
I actually ghostwrote a book for Martin O'Neill that's came out the other month, The Changing Game, just before he got the Celtic job. So I spent a lot of time with Martin O'Neill.
What's Martin like?
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he's a very like intelligent guy. Like he was like a law student before he did football. So, kind of ghostwriting, you kind of think, oh no, am I going to have to just sort of write this entire thing? But basically, he just spoke to a tape recorder for hours, and obviously tweaked it a bit, did some. But it's pretty much his words. Like, he's a really bright, interesting person. I really enjoyed spending time with him.
As I say, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. All the best with it.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you so much to Joey for his time there. Just to add, the book has been longlisted for the 2025 William Hill Sports Book of the Year Award. So I wish him really well with that. As I said, it is a great book. It's an easy Christmas present for someone in the family or the Secret Santa. Do they still do Secret Santa? Or just a mate who you think, do you know what? You need a bit of cheering up or something like that. I can highly recommend it. Hardback, Kindle, audiobook. As he said, they are all available. So go search it out and go find him on Instagram, as he said there. Do you know what? I'm not even sure if I follow him on Instagram. Bear with me. Let's have a look. Don't forget, you can follow the show here on Instagram. Just search Three Lions Podcast. It's Joey Durso. There he is. Joey Durso. Follow. There we go. Go follow Joey on there. There's a lot about his about the book. I'm just scrolling down now. It looks like there's a few pictures of the journey of where he went. As I say, you can follow the show here on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, wherever you want to search it on social media. It's on the other ones. What are they? Blue Sky, and the other one, I've got my phone here. What's the other one? Threads. Never used Threads. Just search Three Lions Podcast. Likewise, you can email me, threelionspodcast@gmail.com, if you've got an idea for the show. Always happy to have a natter. Now, I will be back with you very soon. I'm currently working on the Serbia and Albania preview episode as we speak. So I hope you can join me for that. Stay subscribed, and your provider, well, it'll let you know when it's out. So until then, take care of yourselves. Cheers.